Hi class, my name is William Gifford. My speech today is called Caffeine, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Now have you ever had chocolate, drank a Pepsi, a Coke, or a Mountain Dew? Have you ever taken Excedrin or other headache medicines? If so, then you have had caffeine. Wouldn't you like to know what it's doing to your body? According to a data brief by the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, in a single day, 50% of the population of the US will have drinking a soda. Now 70% of those sodas will have contained caffeine. Tie that with the ever-popular chocolate bar and over-the-counter drugs like Excedrin that contain caffeine. We live in a highly caffeinated culture that only few of us are not a part of. I have grown up with a type of ADD and as well suffer from a high anxiety disorder, both of which are sensitive to stimulants. ADD being known to respond well to them, and anxiety responding poorly. This has led me to having an interest in the effects of caffeine as a stimulant, and I have given a considerable amount of time trying to understand how it can affect me. I want to share with you what I have learned about the harmful and useful effects of caffeine. The benefits can include managing headaches, better awareness and response, and minimizing ADD, while harmful effects can include increased anxiety, poor sleep, and severe withdrawals. Now, there are several benefits to consuming caffeine. If you have ever taken a drug like Excedrin, then you have felt how caffeine can help alleviate headaches. Caffeine is often combined with ibuprofen or acetaminophen in over-the-counter drugs to provide relief for migraines and headaches. Through a fairly thorough study by Diamond Seymour called Ibuprofen plus Caffeine in the Treatment of Tension-Type Headaches, it is shown that a combination of caffeine with ibuprofen has a shorter reaction time and has shown to cause relief to more patients than those who had the drug administered to them separately. Instructions should be followed, and moderation should always be considered when taking such drugs. The tolerance to caffeine can be built up rather quickly, diminishing the effects that it can have on headaches. Caffeine can also help with physical performance. Caffeine generally helps one with better performance when the performance is negatively affected by reduced alertness. For example, when one suffers from sleep deprivation or general fatigue. Caffeine is a stimulant that affects the central nervous system, including the brain, according to an FDA-issued public statement in 2007. In Griffiths and Rollins' article called Caffeine, Pharmacology Effects, which was republished in 2003, this diminishes the effects caused by sleep and fatigue, which can stem reaction time and awareness. Diminishing these effects can increase endurance and performance under poor conditions. This creates several benefits that are appealing to both the serious and casual athletes, or even to improve results at the gym. Now I'd like to discuss the benefits that caffeine can have on ADD. In a book called Attention Deficit Disorder, The Unfocused Mind in Children and Adults by Brown, ADD is a symptom that is often misunderstood and misdiagnosed. People who suffer from it often experience a difficulty to focus or a lack of attention, while being able to hyperfocus on a few particular things, but at the cost of a loss of awareness to the outside of that particular activity. Now, this symptom causes a lack of stimulus in the brain, which can make it hard to give attention to things that do not overtly stimulate a person or their personal interests. Caffeine is a natural stimulant that affects the brain, as stated previously. This can help stimulate a potentially understimulated person with ADD, allowing them to focus with much greater intent. Have you ever had so much trouble focusing that your head becomes cloudy and tasks that should be completed quickly take much, much longer? I have felt this before with my ADD, and I have felt the personal benefits that stimulants like caffeine can offer me, like helping me with focus on mundane and trivial tasks. These are just a few benefits that studies have confirmed, not to mention or include benefits that any individual might feel they derive from caffeine. Unfortunately, many side effects can also go along with the consumption of caffeine. These are just some of the harmful effects that can go along with caffeine. Anxiety is described in Webster Dictionary as a painful or apprehensive uneasiness of mind, usually over an impending or anticipated ill. For those who suffer from them constantly, or in other words have an anxiety disorder, this is a feeling that can exist perpetually and over insignificant events. Caffeine doses of over 200 milligrams have shown to increase anxiety in people and can even induce anxiety attacks in those not normally prone to them. In the same article by Griffiths and Rollins, We read those with previously existing anxiety conditions also tend to be more sensitive to caffeine effects. Those with pre-existing conditions have reported greater anxiety attached to those use of caffeine. Now, along with anxiety, caffeine is also shown to affect one's sleep. Caffeine is shown to exit out of one's system on an average of 4 to 6 hours, but can vary incredibly depending on age, health, metabolism, and natural sensitivity, meaning that a young person may be able to take a drink of caffeine and have it out of their system within 2 hours to go to bed, while an elderly person might take it in the afternoon and still be feeling the effects of the caffeine many, many hours later. While the drug remains in your system, the increased awareness and energy also affects how fast you can fall asleep and the quality of sleep that you will have. Caffeine consumption before you sleep will generally cause poor sleep. Studies have even shown cases where high amounts of caffeine, over 200 milligrams, will cause disruption in sleep when consumed even early in the morning, as early as 7. The study was done at 7 o'clock in the morning. Desensitization to caffeine can minimize effects, but it can still negatively affect sleep patterns, even if it becomes unnoticeable to consumer, according to the article by Griffiths and Rollins. Unfortunately, what goes up must come down, and the same is true with caffeine. Continuing on with the Griffiths and Rollins article, we find that the withdrawal symptoms are often what are complained about most in the consumption of caffeine, and are the main incentive to not stop taking caffeine. The most common effect of caffeine withdrawal is a headache, which is ironic since, as we already learned, caffeine also helps to minimize headaches. It also causes irritability, a difficulty to concentrate, increased fatigue, and stiffness in the muscles. Severity and length of withdrawal symptoms increase with larger daily doses of caffeine and longer continued use of caffeine. It can also differ on the individual depending on health, age, and a few other minor factors. We now know several effects, both good and bad, of the consumption of caffeine. These studies are meant to serve as a guide to help one decide for himself whether or not to include caffeine, and by how much. We see that while there can be benefits, the larger amount that one takes of caffeine, the larger the problems that exhibit it. You should also take into effect one's sensitivity and other parameters that might enlarge or diminish consequences of caffeine intake. For most, taking caffeine is impractical, or taking caffeine out of one's diet is impractical, but hopefully with this information it will best be utilized. Thank you for your time.